see? Abraham saw the city called the bride. It steered his life. An encounter with God opened Abraham's eyes, and it steered his life. And he lived that way. Same thing with David. Noah saw something. What did he see? Joshua and Caleb saw something. What did they see? They saw God. What did David see? This is my favorite one. Think about this little boy with all these strong men, strong military men, and this giant. David was no different. He was a man. The reason David took out a giant is because he saw something. He knew something about God. What did he say when he went in before Goliath? He said, it wasn't about him. It wasn't like, yay, I'm great. He said, who are you to defy the armies of the living God? He saw that his God was greater than a giant. And so he was in agreement with who God was, which brought him into that place where he could take down that giant. His faith was directly related to who he knew God was. Therefore, he was able to act that way. Joshua and Caleb, they saw something about God. I have this whole teaching on Joshua and Caleb. I did it at Keys in LA. It's this distinction, even in the body, that I believe is coming based on who you believe God is and taking land and obtaining your inheritance. A whole generation died in the wilderness because they didn't know who God was, and they refused him. I mean, God said that. They've rejected me. They've rejected me. Why? Because they refused to believe who he was. I'm telling you, this is a real reality. We are coming into this as a body on a whole nother level really soon. Time's accelerating. That's why for us, in my mind, as a company of people, getting these kind of things and having this view about who God is so important, I believe, just because of things that he's shown me. That in the days to come, we have to know who he is. Because the circumstances are going to say one thing, and we have to know who he is, and we'll do great exploits. Those who know their God will do great exploits. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be one that dies in the wilderness. And so Joshua and Caleb, if you look, when they, go in to spy out the land, and I encourage you study it out for yourself. They go in to spy out the land, and they come back with a report. The 12 come back with a report. And what did Joshua and Caleb say? As opposed to the other ones. The other one said, this is a land that devours its people. I mean, they came back with fruit, right? And this is a land that devours its people. We were like grasshoppers in their sight. And Joshua and Caleb, what did they say? Our God is with us. He's given them as our bread. This is a good land. God has given it to us. He's good. He didn't lead us all the way out here to forsake us and bring us into a land that's going to devour us. It was what they believed about who God was that caused them to go in and take that land. And as a church, I believe that we are coming again into that place where we have to choose what we're going to believe. We have to do it now in our own circumstances. For you personally, in your own, the promises and the inheritance that you have, that God's given you for your life, you will not obtain them apart from this. And It's story after story after story in the Word. It's Jesus. It's Jesus' story. He for the joy set before him. Jesus saw something. I promise you, Jesus saw his Father. He saw his Father. He knew his Father was good. I had this experience one time where I had some things going on in my life, and I've kind of like put into practice this by the Holy Spirit, because I wasn't smart enough to come up with it. When I've come up against these just certain circumstances in my own life, I search out Jesus. I search out because we're all on a journey. We're on the same journey as him. He's went before us. He's made a way for us. And we can always, in our circumstances, we can always find him there. We can always find where he was in his own life in those circumstances. And so at this one particular time, he brought me into the council before he was going to the cross, when the innocent one brought before this counselor who was spitting at him, mocking him, smacking him. And I was there with him, and I was aware that he felt nothing but love in his heart. He didn't have any, as this stuff is coming at him, he wasn't angry, he wasn't bitter, he wasn't accusing, he had nothing but love in his heart. And I asked him, how can you feel that way? What is it about you that causes you to have nothing but love in your heart when this is going on? And immediately I came into his perspective, and he let me see what he saw. And it was, as he's standing there, I was so, like, his whole reality, even though he was here and it was going on in the natural, it's not what he saw. Jesus didn't see it. I mean, of course he saw it, but he was in a different reality. His reality was different. His perspective was aligned with his Father's. He was so confident in the Father's plan for his life. He was so confident in the Father's love in his love, if you're confident in his love, you're confident in his plan. They're inseparable. And so that was what he saw. His emotions weren't based on reality. His effect, what he did, wasn't based on this reality. It was his Father. That's what he saw. And so it was a place of peace. It was a place of love, and he could love them. He could love those people because God is love. And when you're in agreement with God, you're in agreement with love, and you have nothing but love in your heart. And it's no effort on your part, really, because it's who he is. And I believe that it was the same thing all the way into the garden, to the cross. He saw his Father, and he was fully confident in the Father's plan. And it's a key for us on our journey. It's the way through. It's what Joshua and Caleb saw. It's what David saw. It's what Noah saw. It's what Abraham saw. What Joseph saw. What Daniel saw. They were fully confident. I'm not saying they were without issues or problems, but they saw something. It's what set them apart. It's what brought them forward. It's what caused them to take land. They saw something. We need to see something. Accurately, we need to see something. and then bring other people into it. When you prophesy and you can have that perspective and you're seeing something that God's doing and then be able to prophesy that way, it affects lives, brings people into agreement with him, and helps actually move them forward into inheritance. In the garden, same thing. Seeing people the way he sees them brings them forth. Seeing people the way he sees them will bring them forth. You'll affect lives around you just by seeing them the way he does. And it doesn't even have to be work. It's just natural.